Hello and welcome to another Arsecast Extra as always with James from Gunnerblog. James, good morning to you.
Morning, Andrew. How you doing?
I'm not great, James, to be honest.
Oh, why?
Well, do you remember last week we recorded a waffle podcast for our wonderful Patreon members?
Of course, how could I forget?
Right. So we had a waffly question from somebody who had back problems, remember?
Yeah, wanted tips on how to deal with the back trouble.
And I said something along the lines of, I've never really had any problems with my back.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. The universe heard me and fucked me. Oh, there's the lawnmower guy.
Yeah. The universe is conspiring on all fronts.
What
do you mean?
Is.
What happened to your back?
So I was playing golf on Friday.
Yeah.
And walking up the 17th, I was like, oh, my back is a bit sore. It's not great, but I figured because I haven't played for a little while and the ground was a bit splodgy and heavy because of the rain and all that kind of stuff, I figured it's just that kind of normal pain in your back that you get when you've been walking for a bit, and you need to sit down. And on the 18th tee, I was like, oh, this is actually, I don't know if I can actually stand upright. This is not great. However, heroically, I played the 18th perfectly. Drive down the middle, 5 wood to the middle of the green, about 12 foot from the hole, over water, brilliant shot, despite the fact that I had this pain in my back, and finished with a very good round. The first time I ever shot under 80, I got a 79. Very, very happy with all that.
It all sounds good. I don't know what any of it means, but it sounds good.
Does. And Friday afternoon, my back is like, this is not great. Saturday, even worse. Yesterday, worse again. And my back is fucking killing me. I've been necking Solpadeine all weekend long.
Can you move? Are you mobile?
I'm sort of, but it's one of those where if I sort of move the wrong way, I feel like my back is going to give out. That kind of way.
Dear.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of golf. I guess you're carrying those clubs around.
No.
I was going to say, it doesn't occur to me that that's a sport where you're likely to do your back.
Well, I mean, you're swiveling and moving, and actually I wasn't carrying my bag. I've got like a trolley, so you just push your trolley and stuff. But I didn't do anything specific. You know the way sometimes when you hurt yourself, you're like, oh yeah, I felt something twang there or, whatever. I didn't, it was just like, this is a little bit sore now, and then it's just got progressively worse. So I've got to go to the physio today at 3:30, and hopefully they can do something for it. I don't know, but
painkilling injections. Play through the pain, Andrew.
I don't know that you can get those from a physio.
Depends whose physio it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's maybe they'll dry needle you. Have you ever been dry needled?
I have not. Is that like acupuncture?
Yeah, kind of.
Right.
It's the same principle. They put a dry needle into your muscle to stop it spasming, and it's very effective.
Right.
But yeah, I don't fully understand the science, but I've had it done to me a few times, and it's quite fun.
Which particular muscles, do you mind me asking?
I'm afraid I can't comment on that. No, back stuff, back, hips.
Yeah.
All that, I've entered the age bracket now where that's just sort of an occupational hazard. And I'm not even golf swinging.
No, you're not.
We all wish you well, Andrew.
Thank you. I suppose it's my own fault for saying I've never really had any problems with my back.
Good time, international break. If you're going to have an injury, this is the time for it.
Well, I suppose. I should have...
Don't go away with your country. Stay at home.
I should have learned, though, because I remember many, 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 many years ago feeling like I didn't want to go to school one day. You have one of those days? You're like,
most days for
I
me,
don't want to go to school. So I told my mother I had a terrible earache, which I didn't. And she bought the lie. Mm-hmm. Not sure how convinced she was, but she bought the lie. By that afternoon, I was in agony with a terrible, terrible earache. So the universe, does not like me saying I've, various afflictions and what have you when I don't. So
too cocky. You were too cocky about the back, and there you go. It's caught you. Mm-hmm. Well, other than that, Andrew, setting that aside, which is difficult, I know, with back pain. you're okay.
Other than that, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm doing all right. You know, what about you? How's the Interlull been treating you?
It's good. It's about to get better. I head off today for a few days away in the New Forest. Look, it must be the opening, I imagine, of this forest. I've been to a few old forests in my time, but I'm intrigued to see what a modern forest has going for it, you know?
I mean,
electric trees.
They're going to be tiny, aren't they? If it's a new forest, the trees are just going to be like saplings everywhere. Like
little knee-high trees. So yeah, maybe it won't be all it's cracked up to be. I don't know, but yeah, I'm off for a few days.
Where is this new forest?
It's in the south of England,
right,
southeast. It's actually a very nice area if you ever fancy it. But yeah, I'm going there for a few days to just sort of chill out.
Okay.
Interlull's ever so quiet, really, on the Arsenal front.
Yes, extremely quiet. I mean,
well,
go on.
There was an extraordinary result at under 16 level. Have you seen this?
I did see that. Yes. What was the final score? 14-3. Was that?
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. Arsenal beat Liverpool under 16s 14-3, I believe. Chido Obi Martin scoring 10 of the goals.
Get him in the fucking team. Just get it. He can do it. If he can score 10 against Liverpool at 16, he can easily do 4 against real Liverpool.
He has trained with the first team squad on a few occasions. So what we should explain is that, as far as I understand it, Liverpool did not have a substitute goalkeeper on their bench and had to replace their goalkeeper very early in the game.
Right.
Seemingly with someone from like the under 9s. Like, I don't know if you've watched the highlights, but it's a festival of bad goalkeeping. I did feel quite sorry for the lad by the end.
No mercy.
No mercy from Chido Obi Martin, who, got into double figures in a single game.
That's amazing, isn't it? 10 goals in one game. I know it's under 16s and what have you, but still.
I mean, he, to be fair, has also been playing up the levels. You know, I saw him play for the under-19s. I think he might even have been with the under-21 squad at one point this season. But
right.
He's as 15-year-olds go, he's quite a mature 15-year-old. He's about 6 foot tall, this guy.
Right.
Already, and quite filled out. So he's not been playing a great deal with the under-16s. And then he did play against some sort of toddler in the Liverpool goal. And it wasn't quite a fair fight, but enjoyable all the same.
Oh, I'm sure it was. Yeah, what a performance from him. And, you know.
And to be fair, we had a 13-year-old in the team who scored a couple of goals and is quite well thought of. His name, I forget his name just now, but maybe that's for the best. I always get sort of wary of hyping a 13-year-old footballer.
Yeah, probably best to relax just a little bit, let them develop. But obviously, Chido Obi Martin is the second coming of...
15-year-olds are fine.
Yeah, 15 is good.
Once they get to 15, they're destined for greatness.
The gloves are off in terms of protecting them from anything. I mean, there hasn't been much going on. Like, even the international games have been pretty low-key, haven't they? Because there's mostly a lot of friendlies last week, I think.
You say that. Well, there was qualifiers as well, but, you know, England, for example, did not start with any of their Arsenal trio of Aaron Ramsdale, Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice.
Probably waiting for tonight to play them in a game that doesn't matter because England have already won the group by a considerable margin. So that's when you use Bukayo Saka and Declan
Closer
Rice,
to the restart of the Premier League, really. Declan Rice did come on and score a lovely goal, which was disallowed.
Seemed harsh.
Swept it home from the edge of the box. It was a bit harsh, but technically it was Harry Kane that was ruled against for being offside. So can't really be too annoyed about any sort of judgment that goes against Harry Kane. Booked for diving in the game.
What?
Yeah,
really?
At Wembley Stadium.
Is this real life?
I know.
What?
Now that he doesn't play in the Premier League, the rules around him don't apply to quite the same degree. And he was booked for trying to buy a penalty, basically leaving a trailing leg. You know when you go around the goalie, but you sort of hang your foot out for the goalie to catch you?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the time they're giving us penalties, and I can understand why, but this ref wasn't having it.
Good. About
Where
time.
was he when we needed him, that referee?
Yeah, all those years of Harry Kane doing exactly that time and time again in the Premier League.
But yes, other than that, I mean, Kai Havertz played at left back for Germany. That seems to me to have been the most intriguing Arsenal story of the international break so far.
Yes. We had a question on the Discord from Fleds who says, who needs Timber at left back when you've got Kai Havertz?
Well, he scored within 5 minutes, didn't he, of the game kicking off, which means he now has more open play goals as a left back for Germany than he does in any position for Arsenal this season. But listen, I don't know what's happened there. I saw that and was like, stop giving Mikel Arteta ideas, right?
I did see that Julian, is it Nagelsmann, or I don't know how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
But that guy apparently said that this is like, may not be a one-off. This might be something they do again.
Well, they were playing someone, I don't want to be disrespectful now, but someone where they were expected to win.
Georgia, was it? Was it Georgia?
Yeah. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Someone they were expected to win. Oh, no, it was Turkey.
Turkey. Oh, yeah, they got beaten as well.
And they lost, yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe it should be a one-off. They got beat 3-2.
Well, yeah, here's the quote from Get Football News Germany. And he says, Kai said he wanted to do it. He wanted to try it. I don't see this as a risk for him, but as a very, very big opportunity to play a key role at the Euros. For the first time in an unfamiliar position, he did extremely well and was probably our best player.
I don't know what to make of this, Andrew.
I don't either. We've all had conversations and discussions and debates and all the rest about Kai Havertz, but the sort of pivot to left back thing was not something I had envisaged.
Yeah, we had enough debate in the summer about whether he would play in midfield.
Yeah,
left back is something we never saw coming. Listen, I know it's an evolving role, and these fullbacks do all sorts of interesting things these days. Just look at Zinchenko or Tomiyasu. But yeah, I was quite surprised by that. I don't think we'll see it for Arsenal, but who knows? I
would be very, very surprised, but not like completely shocked if it happened at some point.
He's just proving himself to be a Granit Xhaka replacement. He's like the next step in me replacing Granit Xhaka is to show that I can play left back. Hey, congrats to Kai on his goal.
Yes. Are Germany playing again? Do they have another game today or tomorrow or anything? Let me have a look.
I would think so. They've got Austria tomorrow in a friendly.
Right.
So it might be another opportunity. Where will Kai want to play this week? In goal, perhaps?
Yeah, possibly. Sweeper, keeper.
He's got the height.
He can play anywhere, this guy. Anywhere.
I mean, that's what Nagelsmann sort of said, isn't it? He kind of beat up his tactical intelligence, said he's a very smart player. There's a lot of positions on the field he can fill. Who knows? Maybe we're all just looking at him wrong.
Yeah, that could be it.
It could be.
It could be, all right. What else has been going on? Well, Mikel Arteta got charged by the FA for his comments. Mikel Arteta has been charged with a breach of FA Rule E3.1. It is alleged that his comments constitute misconduct, as they are insulting towards match officials and or detrimental to the game and or bring the game into disrepute. Mikel Arteta has until Tuesday, 21st of November, to provide a response to this charge.
Yes, tomorrow he must respond.
Poop emoji? Do what Twitter do now. Whenever you email the Twitter press office, apparently it just auto-responds with a poop emoji, which,
Really?
Yeah, that's obviously one of the the ways that Elon Musk has, streamlined and made Twitter more efficient,
It's one of the few ways in which I'd say he's maybe improved it. I quite like that. Arsenal should introduce that kind of out of office poop emoji that just returns every time the FA or the Premier League send them anything.
Not a surprise though, really, is it? Because, I think after what happened in the week with the Howard Webb TV show and all the rest of it, it felt like that was in some ways laying the groundwork for the charge to be laid at the door of Mikel Arteta.
I wish it was called the Howard Webb TV show. And like at the start of the show, he comes out in like a spangly jacket.
Like Morecambe and Wise does a dance.
Yeah, exactly. Him and Michael Owen do like a song and dance routine before they kind of whitewash the VAR errors from the weekend.
Howard and Mickey on the TV.
But yeah, I mean, listen, I guess that charge was inevitable. I felt like Arsenal's statement was almost in anticipation of a charge and kind of a statement of their position back in their manager. I don't know what we'll get. 10-point reduction?
I would be not at all surprised if there was a touchline ban for Mikel Arteta from this one. Like, I don't think what he said merits anything more than a fine, and I'm keeping a close eye on whether or not anything happens to Roberto De Zerbi after his comments. Yeah. Nothing appears to have been said. How long does it take the FA to draft a charge letter for somebody who says they don't like 80% of the referees or their behaviour, which seems to me, a bit more serious than Mikel Arteta moaning or griping about a decision which I think most right-minded people would say was wrong, with the goal and the push and all the rest of it.
For those who haven't heard it, De Zerbi said, "I am honest and clear. I don't like 80% of English referees. It's not a new thing. I don't like them." Asked to clarify, he said, "The behaviour. I don't like their behaviour on the pitch."
Yeah. It's not going to be good for him.
I mean, we all agree.
Yeah, we do. But it is an extraordinary thing for a manager to say. So,
yeah. So, there might be one or two bans being handed out. You'd like to think so anyway. I mean, I suppose the big football news is Everton.
Yes.
Which I have sort of been watching. It's difficult to not think of what might have been for Arsenal. Essentially the Everton owner was Farhad Mashiri, who in conjunction with Alisher Usmanov at one time had himself a decent stake in Arsenal. Wanted a bigger stake.
He certainly did. Wanted
the whole pie.
He likes pie.
And that's not panned out great for Everton, it's fair to say.
No, a slight bullet dodged there, it has to be said. But what do you make of the punishment that's been handed out to Everton? Because, I'm not a finance guy, and I know you're not really a finance guy.
Whoa.
You're
That's
a words
for me
guy.
To say, Andrew.
Sorry.
There speaks a man who's read my breakdowns of Arsenal's financial results.
Yeah.
Yes, Arsenal done a profit again this year, but it was a smaller profit than before. That's sort of my level of analysis.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sort of like that too. Anything where the jargon becomes in any way technical, I'm like, fucking
go to Swiss Ramble. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's it. He's the guy who knows how to do it and knows what it all means. You know? But I don't. So I don't really
he's one of the guys. There's about 3 guys. They're all called Kieran as well, I think. But anyway, I don't know what that means. But yeah, what do I think of it?
Well, just from the point of view that, like, okay, they obviously did something outside the rules. I think they breached their FFP losses by £19 million over the course of 3 years. Is that right?
Something like that.
Essentially,
the Premier League clubs are granted a healthy, not healthy, that's not the word, a significant amount of money that they are allowed to lose. Everton lost in excess of that amount.
Yes.
By 15 or 20 million, depending on who.
Right. So that apparently is worth a 10-point deduction. And it seems to me that a very serious precedent has been set. Because, what is 15 or, 20 million pounds over the course? I mean, it's like if you were to slice Kai Havertz into 3 bits, it's just one of those bits, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that's what should happen. I'm just saying that is financially.
That could be taken out of context.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. At Arseblog suggests Arsenal slice Kai Havertz into 3 bits.
But, this is my, the Swiss Ramble and these guys, they can get into it with their, numbers and facts and spreadsheets and balance sheets and all that. But, this is how I deal with financial stuff, the slicing of human beings into various bits. But, I mean, that's what it is. It's 20 million, so that's worth 10 points. And we obviously are looking at other clubs, right? Mm-hmm. And wondering, well, will the same vigor be applied to their financial, what's the word I'm looking for here without getting myself in trouble? Alleged financial dodginess. Is that okay? I think that's okay.
I think so. I mean, essentially the Premier League, it relates to one season, just double checking the 21-22 season, but the Premier League have concluded that Everton have cheated here by essentially speculating to improve their on-pitch performance and pay for an off-field stadium, speculating to an unreasonable degree and therefore losing a lot of money. And let's be clear, losing more than £100 million is not a healthy thing for any football club, whatever the context.
That's you'd have to get 2 Kai Havertzes, stick them together, and then cut off 25% of one of the double Havertz.
Just the right leg, I guess, off one. He doesn't use it, as far as I can see.
Did he not score his goal at the weekend with his right foot?
Oh, so sorry. I'm so sorry to Kai and everybody else. So I think this is fascinating, to be honest. I mean, part of me thinks that the Premier League are being quite heavy-handed and putting quite a harsh punishment on Everton for 2 reasons. One being they suspect it might be redressed slightly on appeal, and the other is that they're trying to avoid legislation about governance.
Oh,
yeah. They want to run themselves, essentially. So in order to run themselves, they have to make these sort of big gestures that say, oh, no. Like, this is a properly...
We can do it.
Yeah, we know how to be grown-ups. Just as they threw 115 charges again at Man City, just at the time when, the issue of football governance was being discussed in Parliament. So I think there's a bit of politics here. I have to say, I have some sympathy for Everton, who will feel like, in the scheme of things, their transgression is not so bad. I mean, the allegation that's been aimed at Man City is effectively that they have misled the Premier League, whereas Everton have tried, seemingly, to be quite open about their books. They did change their plea. At one point, they were saying they weren't guilty and we've actually only lost this. And then about 10 days before the actual hearing, they were like, okay, we lost this, we're guilty. Give us a lenient punishment. But they have essentially opened their books up to the Premier League. And their argument, and it's debatable, is that they haven't sort of expressly lied or tried to cover up, more that they've been a victim of circumstance, in that they didn't anticipate revenue dropping, say, for example, due to COVID or the subsequent effect on the transfer market, not being able to sell players at the level they did before. I have some. They won't be the only club who's done that in the Premier League. It's just the degree. Obviously, what Man City are alleged to have done is very different, because it is a much more conscious attempt to break the rules. Everton have basically broken the rules by not making enough money. But they can argue that they didn't realise they wouldn't.
Yeah.
If City have done what is alleged, then it's sort of a much more deliberate thing.
For sure. I mean, I think if you were going to ask any football fan, which club do you think is going to run foul of financial fair play rules or, is going to be up to no good when it comes to finances, I don't think Everton would have been anywhere near the top. Man City, of course, we understand that when you have that kind of ownership, there are ways and means of boosting your, oh, look, we've got the biggest commercial income of any football club in the world all of a sudden. How did that happen? Chelsea, of course, are being investigated as well. I think Chelsea reported, the new owners reported issues that they had discovered going back apparently, as far as 2012 to do with payments that breach FFP rules, payments to agents. There was a good piece in The Guardian at the weekend about third-party ownership of players and a particular agent and Roman Abramovich and all that kind of stuff. And, we all know what Abramovich did at Chelsea and how Chelsea were able to be as successful as they were. Just vast resources. But if in providing those vast resources to Chelsea in order to buy players and build a squad and all the rest of it, if the rules have been broken, then it's cheating, right? In the same way that, like, if a particular football club was a very, very good, let's say you've got an amazing football team, right? And they're all technically brilliant players, but they put in place a practice or a doping, let's call it doping, where these players could run faster and press higher and be more energetic and have more energy, and that, on top of their already fantastic technical ability, help them dominate football. If people found that out and there was incontrovertible proof to that, then, there'd be no question that that football team would be punished. And Arsene Wenger called it financial doping, and that's kind of what we're on about here when it comes to, to Chelsea in the past and also maybe Manchester City in the present, if those charges are proven. I thought a very interesting aspect of this. Did you see the stuff about Eden Hazard that came out over the last couple of days?
I actually didn't know.
Basically, Eden Hazard wanted to join Arsenal. This is what his agent says. His agent said he really wanted to join Arsenal. Arsenal, as we know, were very interested in him. He wanted to join Arsenal. His dad wanted him to join Arsenal. His agent made an executive decision. No, you're not going to join Arsenal. You're going to join Chelsea. From a footballing perspective, maybe that was the right thing to do, He won a lot of things and became a very good player and all the rest of it. But I suppose, the question of whether or not an agent is incentivized to make a decision on behalf of a player via payments that Chelsea are possibly being investigated for, that raises questions about not just what the money can do for you as Chelsea, but what the impact is on other clubs, right? So you can't get Hazard because Hazard, it has been decided, it has been arranged that Hazard will go and join Chelsea.
Well, I'm just reading about it now. The Times allege that there was a €7 million payment from a company owned by Roman Abramovich to this agent. Yeah.
There you go, and people will say, well, you got to look after your own shit and all the rest of it, which is fine. But if you're trying to compete in that marketplace for players, it doesn't just boost Chelsea to get Eden Hazard. It obviously diminishes Arsenal not to be able to get him, And there were probably plenty of deals and things like that down the years where, the money, if you follow the money trail, perhaps the decision-making becomes a little more obvious.
Yeah. One that maybe would be another. There's a few. I think, obviously, what this does is it sort of opens Pandora's box slightly, doesn't it? Because, Everton have been punished belatedly for a season that has been and gone in which other teams were relegated.
There's talk of legal action from Leeds, from Leicester, from Burnley, and maybe Southampton as well.
I'm sure there will be legal action.
But
there's just as there was when was it West Ham stayed up with Javier Mascherano and Carlos Tevez in the team, and they were found to be in breach of third-party rules.
Yeah. What was that? Sheffield United, I think. It Sheffield United
again? I'm not sure, but there was a big sort of legal fallout from that, and I think we'll see that again here.
Can of worms, though, right? Pandora's box sort of stuff.
Worms.
Because if something happens, and I know it's a big if, and I realize that Everton's one issue situation is a lot less complex than Manchester City's 115 charges and all the rest of it. And the thing, of course, about financial stuff, as we have demonstrated very clearly, is that it is really complicated. There are people who know a lot about finances and know their way around things and loopholes and all that kind of stuff. So you need like a really forensic eye to unpack, let's say, 115 charges. But if something were to happen at the top, where do you go from there? Like, what did Liverpool do, for example, the years that they finished second? What about the clubs who missed out on Champions League qualification? What about the clubs who missed out on Europe altogether? At what point does your legitimacy to take a case against a club that has been proven, again, if it's proven, but if they've proved to have cheated, where does it stop?
It's really hard to say. And I think one of the issues here is timing. I mean, it does feel odd that Everton have kind of had this punishment meted out while we're still waiting for anything approaching a kind of hearing on Manchester City. I know that the amount of charges and the amount of resource that they'll put into that legal fight makes that difficult, but it does feel odd. And I think the Premier League have sort of resolved, I'm not sure whether this has been privately or publicly, but I think they have resolved to try and deal with these things quicker so that at least the punishments affect the appropriate season rather than being after the fact. But I slightly fear that that's easier said than done.
Yeah. We had a little question here. There's a hypothetical from Stevie B, who's at Annihilate Now on Twitter, and he says, in light of the sanction against Everton, if retrospective sanctions were applied to Chelsea and City, would you be happy taking a title for last year if it also meant Spurs got one for the 16-17 season?
That's a conundrum, isn't it?
No, not at all. No,
you take it.
Oh no, I wouldn't.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's where I would be going as well.
I'd say absolutely not. You can, I think you could, if the situation merited it, I think you could just wipe out the winners of the Premier League. So it's basically nobody won it that year. You can't just give it to the second place team. Like, it would be just so empty, wouldn't it? Like,
soulless win.
It would be just like, well, what's the fucking point of that? I don't want that. I wouldn't want that. You want to win it, not be handed it because, the team above you cheated. If they cheated, punish them by all means. Absolutely punish them to the full extent of the law. That's not what I'm looking for. What's within the rules, whatever punishment has to be meted out, but don't retrospectively crown Liverpool champions or Arsenal champions, and certainly do not crown Tottenham champions ever.
That's a good rule.
Yeah.
I think that should be one of the Premier League rules, to be honest.
Do not crown Tottenham champions ever.
Do not crown Tottenham champions. Yeah, I agree with you. And we had this debate a bit towards the end of last season when the news of those first broke. But, would it feel odd to win the league in a season where Man City have been deducted points?
Well, see, I think that's different. I think that's slightly different. If last season City had been docked 10 points or 15 points or whatever it was, that's their tough shit. We still have to finish above 19 other teams or 18 other teams to win the title. That would be different. But just sort of handing it, taking the trophy off Man City and just scrubbing their name off it and, etching in Arsenal, that doesn't work. That wouldn't work for me.
Yeah. And the other thing I forgot to mention about sort of Everton's situation is obviously they were hugely impacted by the kind of geopolitical landscape in terms of the war between Russia and Ukraine and the sanctions on oligarchs, which I do think raises sort of some interesting ethical questions for the league about sort of what money is okay and what money is not okay.
They don't care. They don't care. They've never cared. You just have to look at the way the ownership of football clubs has gone. They can pay lip service to the proper owner test. What's it called?
Yeah.
Fit and proper persons test or whatever it is. But come on, they don't give a fuck. Really.
No, but in this instance, obviously, they were kind of compelled to act by an outside force. I don't know. It's a fascinating one. I suspect they'll get it reduced on appeal. But I think some sort of point deduction will be upheld. One thing I'd say for Everton is if there is ever a season in which, to get a point deduction, I think it's this one. I think there are some really weak teams in the league. And I actually think it's pretty survivable for them this year.
I agree.
Famous last words, but
I agree.
I think so.
What about our boy Edu? He got an award.
He's won Special Boy of the Year or something?
Special Boy at the Golden Boy Awards, yes.
He was the most special boy.
He was given a golden shower by the Golden Boys.
I think the official title of the award was something like Best European Manager.
2023, yeah.
So Mikel Arteta was presumably annoyed. I guess it's in recognition of his work as a sporting director. I don't know who votes, but listen, congratulations to Edu.
Yeah, well
he's already had his promotion, hasn't he, from technical director to sporting director?
Yeah.
So his standing at Arsenal's pretty healthy, but something to put on the wall, isn't it?
Sure. I'm just trying to see is there any insight into who votes?
I think it's journalists, actually.
Board. I can't be arsed. I just had a quick look at their website and now it's just like, fuck. I can't be bothered. But good for Edu,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I suppose, he has had good couple of years, certainly on the incomings front.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly on the incomings front. And the retention front. I mean, Arsenal have signed a lot of new contracts with a lot of big stars.
Not winning any awards for his fucking sales techniques, though.
Not as yet. No.
The Golden Salesman Awards, he's not winning that.
But interesting, I suppose, that he would win in spite of that. Maybe that suggests that, that it's a wider problem. I think it is a wider problem, certainly in English football. But I think that the really good part of his job, I know that we've made big signings and I know a lot of them have done well, but I think tying down the likes of Martinelli, Saka, Saliba to new contracts, I think that's particularly big, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, keeping those players is hugely important, particularly as there were maybe one or two where we were worried about whether or not they were going to be able to. We were going to be able to hang on to them, but we've done that. Don't think there's much else from an Arsenal perspective going on.
No, the women won last night.
They did 3-0, yeah.
And was it 3 in the end? Well.
3-0.
That'll teach me for turning off early. And there was an interesting tweet I saw about the away fans, which I thought was quite cool, about them sort of developing away culture in the derby. So it was Flo Lloyd Hughes who said, "Respect the Arsenal away crew. They've been non-stop with the noise today. We need the away day culture, and I'm so happy it's been elevated, especially through specific ticket sales and sections across the league this season." So
that is cool.
Hats off to all the Arsenal fans who went down to Brighton for the day.
Yeah. I mean, they've got such a strong following now, and the profile of the team is such that it sort of snowballs in a way, that the more people see it, the more people will want to get involved and all the rest of it. So yeah, brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. And actually,
I expect a lot of eyes on those games during international breaks as well. You know, I know it was on telly, and I think without the men's game, I think probably even more people tuning in, which is good. It'll only grow the audience moving forward, I think.
Yeah, and the start of the season appears to have steadied, you know.
Evened out.
Yeah, evened out. Is that, 5 wins in a row now? Something like that?
Yeah. I think. And Beth Mead making her first start for a year, so... Yeah,
that's good.
It's all looking good.
All right. Well, look, will we park part 1 and see what we can do in terms of questions and stuff after the break?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, we will be back with your questions and more in part 2 right after this. Welcome back to the Arsecast Extra. This is part 2 of the show where we answer questions that you send to us on Twitter at Gunnerblog and at Arseblog. Also on the Arseblog Discord chat server, which you get access to if you are an Arseblog member on Patreon. Randomly, I met an Arseblog Patreon member yesterday. He is called Stevie. He was over from London, I assume, for a weekend in Dublin. I was in a bar for an afternoon pint with my wife, and he was there and saw me and came up and said, you know what I'm going to say, right? And I was like, yeah, kind of. And then he said, thanks very much. Read the site all the time. Patreon member, all the rest of it. So he was floating around Dublin yesterday. So hello to him.
Did he say hi to James or anything?
He didn't. No, he didn't.
He can't be a big fan then.
When he left, there was a man sitting next to me. And he turned around to me and he said, you're obviously someone famous, but I have no idea who you are. So I had to explain. It's a very niche thing, I said. You know, it's quite a specific niche. And so I had to explain the whole what Arseblog was. And he was like, Arseblog, Jesus. And that's a thing, is it? I was like, it is, yeah.
It is now a thing.
It is a thing. So there you go. Anyway, do you want to do a question first, or will I?
Let's do this.
I
will do a question.
Okay.
But what will it be? We had a couple of questions about your friend of mine, Jorginho.
Okay.
So on the Discord, Velociraptor, great name, says, goodly morning. Jorginho talked a bit about his future while on international duty. How would you feel about extending his contract? I think he's been perfectly serviceable and a good elder statesman to have in the squad. And Big Gabby's teeth shone through on Twitter with this question saying, why do fans write off Jorginho as being too old to play regularly for us? He's only soon to be 32. Players in his position are all about experience and often play into their mid-30s. I'm not saying build the squad around him. He'll surely be useful for a while yet.
I mean, I have to say, of all the players we've brought in from Chelsea, he's kind of not my favourite, but I think he's the one that's done best, perhaps.
Really? Better than Luis?
Yeah, he was a joke. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, I'll be more diplomatic and say he had good days and bad days. Jorginho's been steady.
I think he's a good player. You know, he's not a physical player really, but I do think he has been pretty decent. I just, what do I think? Like, was the question, should we offer him a new deal or?
Yeah, or do we extend his contract? We've got an option, haven't we? It runs out in the summer. I think he spoke last week about wanting to return to Italy at some point. He was back with the Italy squad.
Missed a penalty, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Apparently he's missed his last 4 penalties for Italy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember it missing in the Euros final, of course, in the shootout. But didn't matter in the end, sadly. I guess, you know, we've got an option to extend him by a further 12 months. Would you do it?
I mean, it depends what else goes on in midfield. Like, I think as a player who gives you squad depth and what have you, it's, you know, he's a good option in that regard. I just wonder how much of what we're going to do in midfield will depend on A, what's going to happen with Thomas Partey, and B, what the sort of long-term or medium long-term plan for Declan Rice is. Like, is Declan Rice going to be the 6, you know, from next season onwards? Is that where he's going to play? That means, of course, we've got to solve the infamous left 8 conundrum, which we don't
Especially
appear...
now with Havertz as a left back.
Yeah, that's it. You know, in extroverting left back. What sort of a left back is he going to be? I don't know. I think we probably do need to pay some attention to the age profile of our central midfielders, because, you know, Jorginho 30 plus, El Neni 30 plus, Partey 30 thereabouts, and injury prone at this point. So I think we probably do need to bring in somebody more youthful in that position. But as a kind of squad option, I wouldn't be unhappy if we kept Jorginho for another year, you know, assuming that we do bring in that younger player.
Yeah, I suppose what's interesting about it will be the timing. I'm not speaking from a position of knowledge about this, as usual. But it's possible that Arsenal have a date by which they have to trigger that extension. And it wouldn't be unheard of for that to be the turn of the year. Certainly in some previous Arsenal contracts, that's been the date at which Arsenal have had to notify a player if they intend to take up the option. So, you know, that would be pre-January, pre-summer window, and sort of mean you're in a position where you're having to make decisions without necessarily knowing how things are going to go in the market and elsewhere. Perhaps not, you know, because he signed relatively recently, Jorginho, it's possible that they gave themselves longer to trigger that extension, but we'll have to try and find out. But yeah, it's I kind of feel like I don't see Thomas Partey and Jorginho being in the squad next season.
I think it's an either or for sure.
Yeah, and I think the trouble with Thomas Partey is I don't think he's an easy player to move necessarily. You know, I think Arsenal would have been open to moving him this summer for the right price, or if there'd been an appropriate buyer somewhere he wanted to go. But I think for lots of reasons that deal didn't happen.
Do you think it would be less complicated next summer?
Maybe, just because Arsenal's demands might be
lower. Yeah,
lower.
What did you think? I don't know. What do you think about it? Like, I've seen a few stories, and you can kind of dismiss them as scuttlebutt or whatever from various sections of the Italian press. But like Partey, you know, reportedly unhappy with the amount of playing time he's getting at Arsenal or not getting at Arsenal, you know, which ignores the fact that he can't fucking play. Because
I think I was about to say him and me both. I think we can all agree on that. I mean, look, I think the writing's on the wall for Thomas Partey, because I do think that Declan Rice in the long term will play in that deeper position. I think, you know, a player we haven't mentioned, by the way, is Mohamed El Neni, who's another ageing player, relatively little time to go on his contract, operates in that position at the base of midfield. I kind of think only one from those three, Partey, El Neni, Jorginho, ought to be with the squad next season. I think we should be looking to rejuvenate that part of the pitch. Exactly. And I think the one, you know, El Neni, lovely guy and all the rest of it, but I think, you know, would probably need to go somewhere else to play regular football. If he's going to play, you know, another couple of seasons, you know, he will have to make a sideways or downward step in order to play on a regular basis, right? Mm-hmm. Jorginho, I think, at least is reliable in terms of injury and all the rest of it. I think, you know, pound for pound, if it was just player versus player, you would say Partey would be the one to pick. But I don't know how you could do that with any confidence based on the injury problems he's had and is continuing to have, you know. So if Arsenal could cash in a bit on Partey, use that money to rejuvenate, as you say, and keep Jorginho as a squad option, I'd be all right with that, to be honest. But again, maybe
this is something we need to do in January more than next summer.
Maybe. If you don't mind, I had a question about that. So this is from North Banks on Twitter, and they say, lots of chat about whether we should loan or buy a winger or a midfielder in January. But it seems to me that with Partey and Tommy potentially going for AFCON and Asia Cup, that we're lacking that centre-back, right-sided centre-back or right-back option if White gets injured. Surely that's where the cover is most needed until Jurrien Timber is back.
Yeah. I mean, that is a predicament, to be honest, because of, we have covered because of Tomiyasu's versatility and ability, left back, right back, centre half. He can play all of those positions. How long he's going to be away for could be a bit of a problem, particularly if Ben White has got an injury issue at the moment. Mikel Arteta talked about that, didn't he? And talked about how they basically sat him down for, was it the Burnley game? They said...
the ones before the break, yeah.
You've got a problem, you need to sort this out. If Ben White gets injured when Tomiyasu is away, I mean, we're in Cedric territory.
Well, what's interesting is that Mikel Arteta will seemingly play all sorts of people at left back, but he's always been a bit more reticent at right back.
I mean, Cedric wasn't even in the squad for the Burnley game. Now, whether he was injured or not, I don't know, but it was Rule Walters on the bench.
Yeah, and I have to say, from the little bits and pieces I've seen of Rule Walters, I have really liked the look of him. I do think, he looks like a very stylish player, and he's really filled out and developed physically. I don't know if he's seen more in the long term as a centre half, but oftentimes, young centre halves make their breakthroughs, don't they, as fullbacks? There's just a bit more opportunity. I don't know if managers feel sometimes you can, or used to feel maybe, that you could kind of hide a player in that position or protect them a little bit more.
Yeah.
I would sort of say, looking at January and thinking the fact that Tomiyasu is going to come back, hopefully sooner rather than later from the Asia Cup. Timber has been signed and is coming back, and obviously will be an option that going forward. I might say, give a chance to someone like Rule Walters. I think I might be in that boat because, if not now, when?
I mean, that kicks off in mid-January. The Asian Cup. Japan are playing on the 14th of January against Vietnam. I don't know what the rules are, or in terms of like when Tomiyasu would be called up for Japan. Is there like the 2-week rule? Is it a week? At what point are we going to have to do without him? I guess that's something that, some kind of serious investigative journalist could uncover by, I don't know, asking the club. But, it does leave a bit of a hole in the squad. We did have a question.
Shots fired. Yeah. Shots fired. I don't know. And I just look at the market and I think you don't want to really sign someone permanently necessarily because of Timber. Are you going to be able to loan someone of requisite quality? You've got the FA Cup third round game at the start of January to blood someone like Rule Walters. I would do that and see how, does he sink? Does he swim? How does he look at the level? My inclination might be to give him his chance. But anyway.
Yeah. I had a question here on the Discord from Thornley29, sort of touching on a similar theme. He said a question on the pathway for young prospects. I think a lot of fans seem fairly confident that the likes of Patino, Nwaneri, Lewis Skelly, Walters, etc. will become first-team players for Arsenal. But do you actually see opportunities for these youngsters if we continue to be competing as a Champions League club going forward?
I think it'd be really hard. Really hard. And I think, Charlie Patino, I know the noises are a bit more positive now, but there was a very real chance Arsenal would lose him on a permanent basis this summer. And Arsenal were kind of okay with that, potentially, because the pathway is so difficult now. And that's partly why I say, of somebody like Walters, when you have a situation where you've got international call-ups, you've got injuries, if you don't give them their chance now, they're never going to get it. It's odd because Arsenal owe so much in a funny sort of way to that period a couple of years ago where they fell out of contention for the major prizes, and I almost think that afforded them an opportunity to blood people like Kai Saka and Will Smith-Rowe, Gabriel Martinelli, and obviously, we're reaping the benefits of that because they're outstanding talents. But yeah, I think it is going to be hard, and I don't think we can take anything for granted. Even someone like Miles Lewis-Skelly or Ethan Nwaneri, who's so highly thought of and wanted by loads of clubs, and tearing it up at youth level, we just can't be sure. And I also think that even at those later development ages, you still have to be conscious of how something like maturity and physicality can impact upon performance. I'm not saying that is happening necessarily with all those players, but look at the fellow we're talking about who scored 10 goals for the under-16s. There's a decent chance that player's just ahead in his physical development for a lot of the guys he's playing around. Now, is he going to be able to sustain that level of performance when he gets to 18, 19, 20 and everybody's catching up? So many variables, aren't there?
The sort of Frimpong aspect of it, where he was able to just crush it at youth level because of how physically well developed he was. And then
Emmanuel Thomas, I always think, was just incredibly good at youth level, but never quite translated. I think there were other issues potentially there for him, but I don't think we can take anything for granted.
What it does probably, sorry to interrupt, but what it does probably do, like there is there are aspects of this that it could be about timing, it could be about opportunity, it could be about a gap being open within the squad for a player to come in. Like you could talk about these guys, but we might have a name come through in a position we don't think of because that's what the squad needs at that time. So there's an element of sort of randomness in that regard, but it probably means that in order to make the breakthrough at Arsenal, you have got to be super, super good. That if the trajectory of the club continues on this way, it means that the players coming through are probably going to be the highest possible standard, and anyone who falls a little bit below that is probably going to have to go somewhere else.
Yeah, pressure makes diamonds, and the pressure at Arsenal right now is pretty intense. I think as well you have to bear in mind that a lot of times players get opportunities in parts of the pitch that you wouldn't anticipate. I don't think Bukayo Saka would have kind of followed the same trajectory had an opportunity not come up at left back, which he absolutely seized. I think it's really interesting. And look, I think where we want to get to as a club is a situation where even if players don't make it with us, we have looked after their development sufficiently that we are still able to profit from it. I look at, for example, Cole Palmer moves to Manchester City. To Chelsea rather, from Manchester City. And I'm sure there are City fans who are disappointed about that and would have liked to see him stay. I'm sure there are Chelsea fans who feel like they've done well to get him out of City, but they did pay best part of 50 million quid or whatever it was to get him. And
True.
City will be filing that into their FFP calculations and feeling very good about themselves.
Yeah.
So, I always come back to Joe Willock, and Joe was a really good player who probably could have stayed at Arsenal and probably could have contributed in some way, shape or form. But to be honest, that money that he brought in was really valuable at a sort of precarious time for the club off the back of COVID and all sorts. And if you can turn your young players, the ones who don't quite make the cut, into assets, then I think that's really healthy. I think that's really almost should be kind of the primary focus. Can we build value in these players? And the best ones will make it at Arsenal, or where the opportunity is at Arsenal. And the others, hopefully we can make some profit on.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, let's have a look. We had a question about Gabriel Jesus. Snooner Gunner said on the Discord, "Goodly interlull, gents. How concerned should we be? over Gabriel Jesus' fitness. He's expected to play a crunch match against Argentina, and we know how dangerous Romero plays. Should we be worried about his involvement in the Brentford game, or does the next run of fixtures allow us to be flexible in how we integrate him back into the team?
I mean, it's hard not to be worried, isn't it? Because, he's gone away off the back of a hamstring injury, hasn't really trained with Arsenal. To be fair, I thought the comments from the Brazil head coach were interesting and slightly comforting, if that is the right word, when he talked about, taking care of him and if he's available to play, blah, blah, blah.
I think Brazil have since lost, what's the fellow who plays for Real Madrid? The winger, left winger.
Vinicius.
Yeah, I think he may be suspended or out of the Argentina game. So I think there is a sort of fairly big assumption that Jesus will now play.
Right. From the start.
Yeah.
Well, apparently he's out until February because he picked up a hamstring injury.
Oh,
Vinicius
right,
Jr.
There you go. I saw an interview with Martinelli in which he was asked about Vinicius being out for the next game.
Right.
And Jesus consequently being likely to play.
Well, look, if he's fit, if he's ready to start, if he's actually fit to start a game, I think you have to look at that as a positive thing. If he's actually fit to start a game, you have to think that's positive because, we need him and getting some minutes into his legs will be important. The idea that he might get scythed down by Romero or some other Argentina player, I don't know that you should spend a great deal of time worrying about that because, what can you do? That's not really the issue. If someone gets clattered in a game, that's a separate thing from their fitness. My worry over Jesus would be that Brazil push him before he's actually ready and that he aggravates the hamstring and all the rest of it. That would be my main worry, not that he's going to get fouled to Kingdom Come. I mean, that might well happen and it won't be nice if it does, but I can't spend time, worrying about things like that. It's just about his physical readiness and whether or not he is going to be fit enough to play. Because if he is fit enough to play and he plays an hour or 70 minutes or whatever it is, maybe he's not going to be in contention to start against Brentford anyway because of the travel and because of, the cautiousness with which the club might treat him and his load, based on, the fact that he was injured before the break. Like, I would be surprised if he played against Brazil or played against Argentina. I'd be very surprised if he was starting for Arsenal that weekend with the travel and all the rest of it. And Trossard has played very well and is fully fit. So you've got Trossard, you've got Eddie Nketiah as well as two options there to take the load off Jesus. So I'm just sort of more cautious about the idea that his hamstring is okay. I guess we'll find out on Wednesday.
Yeah. Congratulations to Gabriel Martinelli, by the way, on his first Brazil goal.
Yeah, we had a question about Martinelli, actually. Let me see if I can find it. Matt Taylor, who's at AFC Matt09. Morning, gents. What do you make of Martinelli's recent interview comparing the Brazil coach to Arteta? Could Arteta allow him similar freedom? Or does the inverted left-back role, now with Kai Havertz, of course, mean he will be always required to be more disciplined for us than when he plays for Brazil? And just some quotes that were doing the rounds. Martinelli saying they're different working methods, different coaches, each one has his own way. What did he say? Last game, I'd never played so much creative football, but I felt good. Diniz is the Brazil coach. He's been talking to me, giving me confidence. I feel comfortable playing like this. Which some people might say, oh, is that tacit criticism of Arteta's methods or structures or whatever? But it might just be Martinelli saying, yeah, I can do both.
Yeah, because I saw that question and I went back and read the transcript of the Martinelli interview and I didn't see, to be honest, there wasn't a lot of direct comparison in playing style within the interview. He did speak about interchanging positions quite a lot with Brazil. And I think we spoke as recently as last week about Martinelli's discipline with Arsenal and almost unselfishness in that he really understands his role to hug the touchline and offer that width. I remember Thierry Henry talking about going to Barcelona and Pep Guardiola sort of screaming at him every time he wandered into the penalty box, even though he's Thierry Henry, because he wanted him to be out there and hold the width and stretch the defence. And Martinelli does a similar job in this Arsenal team. Could he be afforded more freedom? I think he is afforded freedom, but at the right moments. And it was encouraging against Burnley to see him combining with Trossard a bit more. I think he combines well with Jesus too. It'd just be nice to get those two on the pitch a bit more regularly, you know? Yeah,
for sure. And didn't Martinelli talk after, what game was it? Was it the Sevilla game? Where he talked about Arteta, you've got to run at the defenders. You've got to really go at them. Yeah, it was the Sevilla game because he absolutely roasted that fullback, remember?
Oh, yeah.
So I don't think there's too many restrictions on him in terms of what he can do on the ball when he gets it, It's just very often the kind of teams we're playing against and the way they play dictate to some extent what he can do with the ball. If he's got two defenders on him all the time, there's very little he can do, as skillful as he is, And
to be honest, I think if what he's doing at Arsenal level is earning him a starting place with Brazil, he'll feel pretty happy about that, I imagine. And it was a great goal, really, really nice goal that he scored. So congratulations to him. Big game, I guess, against Argentina for them.
Yeah, that's on Wednesday. I think it's your question.
Oh, I just was going to add. Just on the sort of Jesus thing. I mean, presumably, the sort of mistrust, if there is any, that exists between Arsenal and the Brazilian camp may involve Martinelli in that.
Oh yeah.
He was not selected, was he, for the last international break because he was supposedly injured, and then in the final game before the break, he came on and scored the winning goal against Manchester City. I understand that has sort of played a part in Brazil wanting to look at Jesus, in person. I also think we shouldn't underestimate how much these Brazilian players want to play for Brazil. I think they really, really want to be there. They want to be involved in it. If you're Gabriel Jesus and you're told, look, there's a chance that you could play for Brazil against Argentina, you're going to want to do it. So I think the will of the players has a big part in all this as well.
True.
My question, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. S. McManus on the Discord says, "Hi, gents. I have a question about player evaluation. When can you decide what a player is? I've always felt a player needs 4 to 5 games in a row from the start, as in starting them, to feel comfortable and get into a rhythm. Yet we see 25 minutes from the bench and start to draw conclusions. Would 4 to 5 consecutive starts be a better way to evaluate players like Vieira, Smith Rowe, Gabriel, etc.? Is that good for the team in practice?"
I mean, we have seen Smith Rowe start lots of games, so I wouldn't include him in this. I mean, the flip side of that is, like, if a player isn't starting for 4 or 5 games in a row, why? Is there a gap between them and the player whose position they're trying to take? How do you? I guess, it is difficult, I suppose, if you're only making occasional appearances from the bench, or you're only getting 20 minutes here and there, but that's part of the job as well. Part of the job in those 20-25 minutes is to, produce something that convinces the manager that you're ready to start games.
That's true.
Like, think about Albert Sambi Lokonga. He started games, started pretty much every game in the Europa League, right?
Mm-hmm.
And didn't really do anything to convince you that he was going to be ready to start in the Premier League. So I guess, how do you decide, or when can you decide what a player is? That's obviously personal and subjective. I I don't think there's any hard, fast rule, to be honest, but you just got to use your own eyes and your own understanding of, the game and where a player fits into a particular team and make your own mind up, I don't know if there's like an ongoing checklist or something, though.
Well, I think, are we talking about us as fans or a club? Us as fans, everyone can make up their mind when they want. The club are making decisions on players based on much more information than we have access to. I mean, for example, the manager, he spends 7 days with the team rather. Only one of those might be a match day. The other 5 or 6 sessions that they do, it's probably got greater bearing on his overall evaluation of a player. Certainly this manager seems to place great emphasis on what players contribute in training. One thing I would say about evaluating players, and I know it's something that players sometimes feel aggrieved about, is I do think it's tough for that second string who get thrown into a game with a sort of mix and match 11 that have not really played together a great deal. I think it is much more fair to evaluate a player when they are stepping into the first team than it is in a sort of pick-a-mix Carabao Cup 11.
Sure, like you could say Fabio Vieira fits into this team because of how well he did when he deputised for Martin Odegaard against Brentford last season. But subsequently, does he?
Yeah. It's hard. Like, if you're a defender but you're in a back four that's never played together, I think that's really tough. Similarly, if you're a striker, number 9, and the midfield don't have that fluidity and understanding, you're going to suffer. So, I know that players feel they want to be judged on how they do when they're in the team. But of course, the difficulty here is opportunity. And, the question makes a good point. Yeah, we probably should judge players when they've had 5 games in, the preferred starting 11. But how many players like Gabriel or whoever it is, Vieira, on the fringes of the squad are going to get that this season?
No, I mean, going back to what we were talking about opportunity or something happening or a space opening up for a young player coming through, sometimes a player only gets a start or a run of starts when somebody else is out of the team. Like if Gabriel gets injured, touch wood, etc., Kivior comes in, right? That's his opportunity. But as it stands, if you're playing a crunch Premier League game tomorrow, are you picking Gabriel or are you picking Kivior? I think you're picking Gabriel because you go with what you know and what's worked. So, just part and parcel of the job of a footballer is to be ready. And Arteta says this a lot, actually, be ready to take the opportunities when they come. Some players have had lots of few more opportunities than others. But, there's a reason why I think for the most part, most managers will stick with a relatively small group of starters, I don't think that's just true of Arteta.
I think, it shows, we had a question earlier on, how difficult is it for these young players to make the grade? Well, we're talking about players here who are, in the case of Kivior, for example, established internationals. And we're saying it's going to be hard for him to get a run of games. It's going to be hard for him to take that moment. So I just think that underlines how difficult it is for someone who's inexperienced coming into the group.
I enjoyed this from Boston Gooner 77. He said, 2 years ago we missed out on top 4 because of late season injuries to Partey and Tierney. Last year we missed out on the title because of late season injuries to Saliba and Tomiyasu. But this year we're getting our injury crisis out of the way early in the season. Is this Arteta's latest tactical masterstroke?
Yeah, well, we all spoke about needing to pace ourselves. Look, there's a lot of muscular injuries happening in football at the moment, it seems to me. We just spoke about Vinicius. I think a lot of big players are being ruled out. If you look around the Premier League, clubs like Manchester United, Newcastle have had extraordinary injury problems already.
Yeah, fuck them though.
I mean, obviously that's great, but In terms of player welfare, I do think, there is probably something to be looked at there.
We had a question on that actually from Emil Smith Row Your Boat. He says, with the sheer number of serious muscle injuries and ACL injuries suffered by players in each of the top European leagues this season, has football now reached a breaking point with the number of games being played? Do you think we'll see a coordinated response to fixture congestion within the next 5 years? And if so, what form do you think that response will take? I don't know if you saw the footage of Gavi playing for Spain last night, rupturing his ACL. Sad one.
Thankfully,
one of those where he was just trying to control the ball and his knee just did that little buckle thing, and very sad, obviously, for him to suffer such an injury. But there are a lot of injuries, and there are very serious questions to be asked about player welfare and the sort of constant demands that football puts on players. And, of course, we know they're very well paid and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, they are only human. Even with the best resources, there is a point, at which, the demands are too much, I think. Yeah,
but my short answer would be I don't really expect any great change there. I think, unfortunately, it's business driven, isn't it? It's money driven. The demand is there for the football. I think as long as that's the case, I think the people will take the attitude that, well, there are always more players, essentially.
It'd have to come from the players.
Yeah.
The response would have to come from the players, because managers come and go and their jobs are so precarious that, as much as, and I'm sure many managers do have a very serious consideration for player welfare and want the best for players. Lots of managers were players, of course, and understand the demands that are being placed on them. But it's very difficult for them when, win your next game or you're out, or bring a trophy this season or you're out, or, they have to make decisions for their own jobs. I think, a strong players' union would be the only way in which we could see any meaningful response that might get something changed. But as you say, it's business, it's money, it's TV deals, right from the end of the season, it's international tournaments, then it's preseason tournaments, interlulls all the way through. There's no downtime for players anymore. And I think the unfortunate consequence of that is some players are going to get injured with greater frequency, and football will just go on because, like you say, there's just always more players.
Yeah, and we're existing in a time where competitions are expanding. Where World Cups and European Championships are getting bigger. The Champions League is getting bigger. More games to come in that competition moving forward. So we're actually going in the opposite direction right now, and I think it would take something pretty drastic to see that reversed. Yeah. What about we had Critical T with his player ratings game?
Oh, no way. Awesome. Let's do it.
Fancy a round of that?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. The game that needs no introduction, says Critical T. Quite right. So here we go. Rating number 1.
Okay.
Play along at home. Got his first Arsenal goal, and what a goal it was too. The finish was just sublime, swerving just beyond the reach of that baldy mug smasher. Then set up Giroud for our second. Quality.
Baldy mug smasher. So that must be Pepe Reina?
Pepe Reina, yeah.
Must be. So got his first Arsenal goal against Liverpool, and what a goal. And then set up Giroud. Fuck. I don't know, actually.
I'm thinking,
Gabriel Martinelli? Could it be?
Martinelli.
No,
I think
couldn't be.
I think Cazorla or Podolski is my guess.
Could be Cazorla, but was it a swerve?
We won a game at Anfield early on.
That's what I was thinking.
Podolski scored, I'm sure, didn't he?
I thought so, yeah.
We went through and...
But didn't Cazorla score that day as well? Wasn't it Podolski and Cazorla who scored that day?
I think you're right. Not Giroud.
I don't know. I'm giving up on that one. You'll have to give me the answer.
I'm going to guess Cazorla. Let's go Cazorla. I don't know the game. The answer is Mesut Ozil.
Oh.
Oh, home to Napoli. The mug smasher was a red herring. He was ex-Liverpool by that time.
Ah.
Good one, Critical T. Foxed us.
Yeah.
That was, of course, the sort of cushioned volley from the edge of the box.
Yeah, the side footer. What a great finish that was.
Yeah. Okay, rating number 2. 10 out of 10.
Ooh.
A goal and an assist. And he said on Sky he hates Spurs in so many words.
A goal and an assist, and he hates Spurs. 10 out of 10. Fuck.
Can't be Robert Pires. The player races weren't in action at the
No,
time.
they weren't.
He said he on Sky he hates Spurs. I feel like we would have venerated a player for that, you know.
It feels a bit Jack Wilshere to me.
Yeah?
But
okay.
I can't remember a Wilshere goal and an assist in the same game.
I'm going to say Theo.
Oh.
I feel like, you know, he'd have a little laugh in an interview afterwards.
I can't remember ever giving Theo a 10 out of 10, though. if he deserved...
For effort?
Yeah, 10 out of 10. Okay, go for it. Who is it?
The answer is Emile Smith-Rowe.
Ah.
Arsenal 3, Spurs 1. 2021-22. Oh, damn. He said he hates Spurs. I have to watch that interview back. Okay. 7.5 out of 10 for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Great delivery from the left again. Giroud and Walcott should probably have scored. Shooting a touch wayward, though. Knocked the wind out of Jamie Carragher for a bonus.
So that's got to be Podolski. Is it?
Giroud and Walcott should probably have scored. You'd think. Great delivery from the left.
Who could hit a ball that would knock the wind out of Jamie Carragher? There's a lot of wind in there.
Carragher is like the same era as Giroud and Walcott, but he feels like he's from an earlier time.
Yes. Yeah.
It seems odd that he would be playing with those players. I know that sounds strange. The answer was Lucas Podolski.
Yeah.
And it was a home 2-2 in 2012-13.
Right. That was a good one. We got that one. So we've got 1 out of 3 so far.
It was a weird player, Podolski, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anyone who can hit the ball quite as hard.
No. His delivery could be excellent. His end product could be very, very good. But that was sort of it, wasn't it? And then he just sort of jogs around.
Chunder around the pitch, and then every so often he just fucking cannonball something into the top corner. You're like, oh my God.
He was like a piece of heavy artillery that you just sort of had to try and maneuver into the right position. Okay, player rating number 4.
Okay.
8.5 out of 10. Absolutely fucking immense. 3 tackles, 3 interceptions, 5 clearances, and he made Sterling look like some kind of dodgy cryptocurrency.
I am going to say that had to Gabriel
Sterling.
or Saliba.
Gabriel or Saliba.
That's what I'm thinking.
So you're thinking Sterling at Man City. Because it could be Liverpool or Chelsea.
When did he join Chelsea? Not this season, the season before. So it could have been, I think it could be from last season. So I'm going to go Saliba.
Okay, I'm going to go Tomiyasu.
Okay.
It's Tomiyasu!
Oh, well done. Well done.
I went with quite Mark Goldbridge there in my action. It's Tomiyasu!
Bloody hell!
So that was the home game against City where Gabriel was sent off.
Right.
Where we lost.
Oh.
Right. Here we go. Last one. 8 out of 10. By the way, 8.5 for absolutely fucking immense. For me, that should be a 9 or a 10.
I agree. What was I thinking?
I don't know. These player ratings are bullshit. Okay.
They are, by their very nature, complete bullshit. People always get... The thing that people get angriest about on the website is player ratings. How could you give him a 7? Whether it should have been a 5 or a 9 or whatever it is, it's just like, well, you know, you're actually allowed to rate the players yourselves as well. You know, no one's taking that away from you. So
that's true. It's a democratic system.
Yeah.
So here we go. Last one. 8 out of 10. What a great performance he put in. Encapsulated by his late pressing which forced United backwards as we were sitting deep. Loved it.
Thomas Partey?
Okay. And I'll go Eddie. All right, let's see.
Okay.
Roll the dice. Well. Mohamed El Neni.
That was the first name that sprung to my head.
Was it?
It really was. But I was thinking, because I remember him coming on.
It's the game where we won 1-0 at Old Trafford.
That was the game I was thinking of, yeah.
Played next to Partey.
But you see, my brain played a trick on me there, and I thought he only came on late to do the pressing thing. But now that you remind me, yeah, he did play. But Partey was very, very good in that game. But I remember the El Neni pressing because it was...
Yeah, I think they had a little run together as a partnership after that, and it was kind of... it was
all right.
Yeah. I mean, El Neni is a player who, if you put someone next to him who, is your playmaker, essentially, and just say you do all the dirty work, he certainly will run for you.
That is true. That is true.
There you go. Well, it's always good fun during the Interlull. A good round of that. Thank you, Critical T, for doing the homework. Appreciate
that. We weren't quite as good at figuring out which ones they were this week. But, that's down to the foxiness of the ratings that he selected. So we look forward to another go at this in the next Interlull, which, of course, isn't until next year, probably next March. So he's got plenty of time to sort of delve into the archives and find some really tricky ones. I did want to finish with this one, though, if you don't mind. Gabriel, who's at Gabriel_AFC7, said, morning, gents. With Arsenal recently reaching 1,000 goals at the Emirates, please name your favourite Emirates goal and your favourite Emirates assist.
Yeah, I don't think we mentioned that. That it was the 1,000th goal that Leo Trossard scored at the Emirates last week, whatever it was. My favourite goal at the Emirates. Someone asked me this the other day, actually.
Yeah.
And I answered by saying that it is the Reece Nelson goal. And I know that might just sound like I'm picking that because it's recent, but in terms of the quality of the goal, the significance of the goal, the drama of the moment, that I think will be very difficult to surpass.
Okay.
What about you?
Cesc Fabregas against Spurs.
The one from kickoff.
The one from kickoff.
Yeah.
I just can still remember the feeling of that goal. I was there for that game as well. So it was one I experienced in person, and the sort of surreal nature of scoring and then scoring again straight away. I don't think I've really experienced that too many times. As a football fan, I just love that goal, and the fact that he just ran through the Spurs defence and slotted home makes it all the better. So
it's like a playground goal, wasn't it? It was sort of like you shouldn't be able to do that at this level.
Yeah.
And he just did.
He did.
Yeah, that's a great goal. Honourable mentions to Arshavin against Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
Giroud's scoring goal I would have in there just for being an absolutely extraordinary feat that I don't think I'll ever see again.
Jack Wilshere's goal.
Yeah.
Thomas Rositzky's goal, which was somewhat similar. Who did he score that one against? Sunderland, was it? Or Burnley?
I wanted to say Norwich, but it's not.
No, Wilshere was against Norwich. The Rositzky goal was, I think, against Sunderland.
Sunderland, you're right. It was Sunderland.
I also really like Thierry Henry's header against Manchester United, the last minute header, because again, it's one of those where, it wins you a game late on, and that's a very special feeling. But he didn't really score too many headers like that during his time at Arsenal. So it's a goal that sticks in my mind.
A lot of people would have Henry against Leeds as well. I think maybe the return. That was quite a special moment. Mm-hmm. There have been some some great goals and some great moments. I think that Nelson one will live with me for a long, long time.
Sure. I can't remember any assists, by the way. So I'm sure there've been plenty of amazing ones, but I can't remember any of them right now. So
no, that's fair enough.
We'd be here until
it's not
next week.
I know. I was going to say something so stupid. Then I was going to say, well, it's not the 1,000th assist, but obviously, if there have been 1,000 goals, presumably there have been assists of some fashion.
Yeah,
but depends what you count as an assist these days.
That's true. Penalties and free kicks and things like that wouldn't necessarily have an assist.
The opposition players pass directly to the striker,
Yes, those kinds of things.
When it's the 1,000th assist, we will make our choice.
Yeah. We'll need our pals at Opta or something to give us the heads up on that one, and then we can review the footage and all the rest of it. All right, we better leave it there. Get this podcast out for everybody. Thank you, as always, for being with us. Thank you as well to everybody who gave us a vote for the Football Supporters Awards. I think the polls close at midday, so by the time you've heard this, the polls will be closed. But thank you to everybody who's given us your votes, and hopefully we can bring the trophy home on December 4th or something, whenever it is. We'll let you know. For now, take it easy, and we will catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye.